Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, in studio, and then it's everyone else in studio, actually, too. Ron Richards, Win Twit Dow, and Michelle Rahman all joining me here at this table. A little bit of Google I.O. preview, and then a ton of other news, and a heck of a lot of fun next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 629, recorded Tuesday, May 9th, 2023, the password paradigm. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Delete Me. Reclaim your privacy by removing personal data from online sources. Protect yourself and reduce the risk of fraud, spam, cybersecurity threats, and more by going to joindeleteme.com/twit and use code TWIT for 20% off. Also, thank you for listening to All About Android. As an ad-supported network, we're always looking for new partners with products and services that'll benefit our audience. 99% of our audience listens to most or all of our episodes. Grow your brand with authentic ad reads that always resonate with our audience. Reach out to advertise at twit.tv and launch your campaign now. Hello, welcome to All About Android, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. A very, 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 and one more very special episode of All About Android. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And
And it's wow, they just went for it. They went. Oh, yes, it is my birthday.
Okay, well, you'll say your names in a second.
Yeah, say
Apparently
your name.
there's flame to be
wow, there's
blown out.
fire and treats
beautiful.
and all this lovely stuff. Wow, celebrating my birthday and All
Go
About
ahead,
Android.
spread
Thank
your
you very
germs all over those.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
There you go.
Well, okay, yeah.
There you go. I hope
you're
there's not a
good.
smoke
Yay!
detector.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
Ron.
Ron.
Thank you.
birthday.
I'm
Another
not
year
keeping
younger.
the hat on the whole show.
Why not? It's
Totally
still
How did it not?
It's still lit.
Is it like one of those
It's
like
the
joke
fire.
candles? What year? How old
No.
are we?
Could. Okay.
There you go.
And
Oh my God.
Burke, I hate you. Okay. Victor, go ahead and cut to Win so she gets to get in there.
Hi, I'm Winwood now.
There we go, in studio. And finally,
Shal Rahman. It's not my birthday, but yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I was
Oh
like,
my
oh
gosh.
God, what did I get myself into?
seriously, I drove all the way up for this.
Oh my goodness.
but
This is
you've got
Yes.
exactly why I drove up
You
here.
got
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Oh, it's
sparkle confetti all over you.
Yeah, you can. Well, thank you everyone at Twit for the wonderful birthday wishes. Also, wishing a wonderful happy birthday to Florence Ion.
That's
It is
right.
also her my
birthday,
birthday
Joe.
sister in space. We chatted a little earlier. She's already down at the shoreline picking up
Yeah.
her Google I/O badge. So
She's got her badge.
yeah.
She's flashing it. If you're a member of the
Her badge.
Club Twit Discord, then you can see in the All About Android channel. She's, I mean, I don't know if that's a picture of right now, but she is there.
She's there.
She's got her badge, which is one step closer than any of us.
And I do feel.
yeah.
I do feel bad because I don't want my birthday to overshadow the fact that we're all in the same dang room for
We
the
are.
first time ever with this crew.
Can I also say just
Yeah.
one more thing? We've got a room filled with people right now.
We do, yeah, it's
Actually,
very
more
odd.
people than we usually or, possibly have ever had for All About Android in here. We do have Burke, yes,
Hey,
behind the board, but Burke is not running the board today. It is Victor. Victor will be running the board. And I should also mention that Victor's birthday is in 2 days, right? 2 days?
Hey.
So happy birthday to you, Victor, as well.
Thank you.
So yes, we're all in the same studio. It's
amazing.
How freaking awesome is that?
Thank you.
We'll eat those later.
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
we definitely. I
Hey,
definitely
John.
will be. Yeah, yeah.
Scarf
Win a
him down
Michelle.
the corner. We'll just be sitting here.
Yeah, you'll be lucky to get one right.
I know. I'll be like, yeah. But it's good to all be at the table.
I
Like, this is how
know.
we used to do it, right? Like,
And yes, once upon a time, you would come into the studio almost every episode because you lived in the Bay Area.
Yep.
Now we're here from all over the country, really, right?
Yeah.
Like New York,
yep.
Texas.
Texas,
Colorado.
Colorado,
Wow.
Boise, Idaho, but I live in Petaluma. Let me just
Your commute was not as much
Yeah,
as my
yeah,
no,
commute
it
not
was
as
yeah.
much.
maybe 7
2
minutes.
hours.
But yeah, no, it's just great that it all coincided with Google I/O tomorrow
Yeah.
down in Mountain View. We're all very excited to go to the big show, the big Google
Big show.
Big one.
and all hang out together at it. It's
It's
gonna be fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
And we got a lot to look forward to at the show tomorrow. And actually, I'm looking through the news, like, If you're thinking that you're going to get like nothing but a Google I/O preview, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We're going to start off with a little Google I/O, just kind of give you a little taste, because by tomorrow morning it's going to be outdated. So
It's kind of already outdated.
Yeah,
It's
that's true. That's true. At this point, we kind of know what we know. And then we've got a ton of other news. I'd say 3/4 of which has Michelle's name written on it. So
Shaw's gonna do some heavy lifting today.
Literally.
I hope you're
keep
ready.
you busy. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about this week. So why don't we just jump? I don't even know which of these like 6 cameras to look into.
There's so many cameras.
That one.
Here.
So why don't we jump into the news? Victor, take us there.
Whoops.
That's right.
I guess I'm the news.
Michelle is responsible for a lot of the news. That is true.
We're just gonna take a break and
There's
just
so much glitter in my hair.
It looks like it's an all Google I/O, all Android news, but more so, there's so many people in the studio, I couldn't come up with anything better.
I'd really hope that in honor of my
Pressure.
birthday, the Android news bumper would have risen to the level. But I'm glad to see that we're consistent. But yeah. So as
Ron.
we mentioned,
That's a compliment from
it
me.
is Google I/O Eve. We are very, very excited. So we want to touch on just what are we going to expect tomorrow when all the nerds descend on Mountain View. Well, first and foremost, most likely is going to be Android 14, which we've been talking about. I feel like we've been talking about for months now already. It's like old news again. But we're going to get the full story behind the update, and we're going to hear how Google's going to spin the new version of Android, and not that they need to spin it, but how they're going to position it and link it to everything. And within that, we're more than likely going to find out a lot about how AI and search are going to come into play. And we're going to talk about that a little later in the show. But clearly, the race, one of the stories of 2023 is becoming the race for AI with ChatGPT leading the lead, and everybody kind of catching up. And of course, Bard from Google's offering is right there at the forefront of that. Look forward to see how Bard comes to Pixel at some point, either via Google search or a standalone app. Which could be an announcement at I/O. We'll see what comes from that. And then it's funny because I feel like over the years, I/O has vacillated between like a developer event, we're talking about the new version of Android, or, hey, it's a consumer products event, we're going to show you new products.
Yeah.
But it looks like this year we're getting new consumer products, and obviously the story is going to be how they all work together in the ecosystem of Android. But we talked about it last week. We're going to finally get that Pixel Fold that we've been talking about for over a year now. Probably going to see the Pixel 7a. The Pixel tablet that we already know exists, right? So those are great new hardware to expect. But will we get a Pixel 8 tease? It seems like
I kind of feel like, yeah, probably.
I think that didn't last year they showed us what the Pixel
Yep.
season
They
looked
did.
like?
They-
Right,
It seems to be
exactly.
Google's playbook
Right.
right now is to kind of give you a little teaser.
Right. Will
Get ahead of the leaks.
Will they have anything to tease for Pixel Watch 2? Do they want to pick up on the wearable side?
There are some rumors.
Yeah,
there are
there it
some
is.
rumory things saying that a
That would be
Pixel Watch
interesting.
2 would happen by the end of the year, right?
Yep.
The end of year hardware.
Yeah. I think the rumors say with the Pixel 8 launch.
Right.
Okay.
Supposedly.
I mean, because it would be the ecosystem that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the phone, get the watch, get the tablet. But the underlying tech underneath all that is the Tensor chip, and will they tease the Tensor G3? More than likely, we'll hear about how great the Tensor G3 works with AI. And
We've had many advancements in the realm of AI, specifically how our Pixel phone's Tensor chip, made exclusively by Google, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
we could write the I/O keynote right now, I think, with Bard.
Oh yeah, see, maybe they did write the keynote with Bard. Oh,
That would be amazing. Could you imagine at the very end of the show? And by the way, everything that you've heard us say was written by Google Bard. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon. That would actually be pretty impressive.
Yeah. So that's just a quick rundown of what we're expecting tomorrow at Google I/O. But is there anything else? I mean, Michelle, what are you hearing in the?
Is there anything else newsy that we haven't talked about? Michelle?
No, I think the big thing to look out for is how Google is going to incorporate generative AI into everything.
Yeah.
So from their search products, maps, Play Store, development tools, Android, Pixel, everything. Like that's going to be the big focus, the overarching theme, I think, of this Google I/O.
AI chat. I mean, there's
So much AI.
yeah. There's the what was it? The Wall Street Journal had the news, I think, in the last couple of days that, and I don't know if this is IO driven or further down the line, but that, Bard essentially would get roped into Android in some way, either within the search bar that we're used to interacting with or as a standalone app, but being that kind of always present, always on device thing, which really just reminds me of like
It's
Google
Assistant.
Now of days of yore,
or Assistant. It's what Assistant is what
Yeah,
Assistant
that's
has been
what I
for
mean.
years now. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing is that like I get the need to have a product to compete with ChatGPT. And to put Bard out there, and the way they're positioning Bard, and that, thank you. There's so much glitter, jeez. But the positioning Bard as a like help Bard write your homework or do whatever type of. But like I feel like why aren't they saying, hey, we've been here for years with Assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Like AI has been a piece of our operating system for years because it has been. Like we've heard about the machine learning and what it can do in the Pixel environment and what Assistant can do for it. I feel bad for the team that's worked on Assistant all these years to be like, hey, what about us?
It really feels like that meme where the guy, that meme with the guy and his girlfriend, he's looking over. And so Assistant's his now girlfriend, and he's looking over at Bard like,
yeah.
But I mean, and it's obvious, right? Because
He's looking at ChatGPT.
Oh, sorry, right. But, if you zoom out even farther, ChatGPT's over there in an even more banging outfit.
Right.
But I mean, like, and we reported that they had a whole executive kind of like upheaval as well. So it really seems like just in all kind of manners they're shifting just to, and it's so weird, right? Because for years it was like Google Assistant is like the best. Like we make fun of Bing, we make fun of Siri, and now the table have entirely flipped in like a different direction.
Oh,
and now
yeah.
Google's like scrambling, and we're just like gonna be sitting here in the audience watching, like, how's this gonna go?
The narrative has shifted to
Incredibly.
Google was perfectly positioned to dominate in this space, and now look at Google like sitting on the benches,
Playing catch up,
trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
I think Google, what people kind of underestimate Google's dominance still is that, ChatGPT, most people aren't going to go to ChatGPT's website and interact with them. People have played with it.
Right.
But the way people interact with it is going to be through services that people are using, existing services.
Super true.
And I still think Google has a huge advantage at getting Bard in front of users, more so than Microsoft does.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, if Google was to bring its Bard AI to every Android phone, that is GMS certified, let's say, which I'm sure is exactly what Google intends to do at some point. Like, does that just that exposure is so valuable. You're right. Most people have heard of ChatGPT, or who have heard of ChatGPT, have interacted with it, but it's not in their face every day. They have to remember to go to that site. They have to remember to have a reason to use it. Meanwhile, you've got Bard just hanging out on your home screen, waiting for you to ask it that dumb question or to generate whatever it is it's going to do. I mean, it's always there. So, of course, you're going to interact with it in the same way that we interacted with Assistant.
I couldn't help myself. I just went to Bard and it said, write the Google I.O. keynote. And it said, sure, here's a possible Google I.O. keynote for 2023. Welcome to Google I.O. We're here to be with you to share some of today's latest news and innovations from Google. This year, we're focused on three key areas: making the world a more accessible place, helping people live healthier and more productive lives, and making the world a more sustainable place.
Pause. Applause.
Tell it to add more corporate speak, and then you'll be golden.
But what's funny is that it's all previous years. It's like, it's like, for example, we're introducing Android 13, and we're talking about Google Fit, right? Like, it just cherry picking stuff from
does a really good job of writing last year's keynote.
Exactly.
I mean, as much as Google reuses names, that actually might not be a bad strategy to use Bard for that. And at some point, it's going to be right. It's like the whole monkey typing on a keyboard thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, it'll come back around.
At Google, they've been feeding Bard all of their internal documents for the last year. So, I don't actually think they've been doing that. But if they had, Bard might actually be really good at writing a keynote.
This is interesting, though, actually, because it not only did it provide this, but it provided since I used it, they've added this functionality. It says view other drafts, and there are 3 different approaches to answering the question.
Wow.
There are 3 different drafts that are completely different kind of.
It's crazy.
It's weird. It's weird. I do think, I mean, I know that ChatGPT it's so hard not to start talking about AI and fall down this rabbit hole. But I know ChatGPT just like is opening up a lot of the services, to your point. Like, it's going to be the underlying structure that a lot of people are going to choose to work with to build stuff. And I'm curious to see what comes out of that from the innovation of like what other people are, how they can focus the technology and make consumer facing, not singular use, but less unlimited, right? Because I do think one of the challenges of both ChatGPT and Bard and what is Bing's called? What is Bing? But like, is just that it's so open ended and it's so like you could type whatever you want. Like, where do I start? But having a focus on it, I think, is helpful. But
that's kind of been a challenge for things like interacting with Google Home and Assistant as well in the past. I don't know if that's a challenge that we struggle with now because we kind of got used to the limitations. But in the beginning, I know I remember when Assistant came out and, people were writing articles or reference, documents that you could point to that were like, here are like 500 commands you can do with your Assistant. And I was like, well, that's neat. That really shows the depth of what it can do, but I'm never going to remember 99% of these things on the fly.
Yeah.
It's like you have to program the syntax into yourself in order to get the advantage out of it.
Yeah.
And it seems like where they're going with these current systems is that syntax kind of doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
It's like, what do you actually want? And we'll figure it out for
The
you. And that's
UI
pretty
is
powerful.
going to decipher the syntax. Okay, so before we move on, around the table, around the horn, one thing you're looking forward to at Google I/O.
Fold.
What?
Fold.
Fold? Okay.
Give me fold.
Ooh.
Jason.
I mean, I want to say that too.
Okay, you can.
I'm excited for the fold.
You get the right half. You get the left half. I'll get
My
the right
real
half.
answer,
of the fold.
fold. My official answer, Android 14.
Okay, that's fair. And mine is the tablet. Obviously, that's what I'm so excited to get my hands on that tablet.
Oh, the poor little Pixel 7a. It's like, but I may be a mid-range, but you guys love me the last couple of times. Like, you love the A series. You're always talking about how great I am.
By the way, I've never heard Jason's Pixel 7a voice, but I love it.
It sounds like a brand
So now
character.
every time we talk about the 7a, you need to do it in that
Come on,
voice.
guys. No, I may be mid-range, but come on. I'm powerful.
Actually, that character is going to be public. What is it? Copyright on that character is ending in like what?
Public domain.
Public domain
Yeah.
soon. So, okay, never mind.
We'll just get some generative AI to create a cartoon character, like a cartoon Pixel 7a
like
with
it's
that voice.
Like with Clippy's face.
Oh,
Yes.
different morphize,
Yeah.
fold.
All right, so someone out there, go to Midjourney or do whatever and type in make a cartoon character out of the Pixel 7a, and let's see what
and
we
use
get.
this voice.
Yes, and what freakishly weird hands we'll get from the AI.
Hey,
image.
guys.
So, all right, well, let's move
All
on.
right, so that's our I/O preview.
Yeah.
That's all you get because in like 12 hours we'll know everything officially.
Well, so many of you probably listening to this, if you're watching live or if you're listening to this first thing tomorrow morning after you download the podcast, you're driving to work, go to all of our respective social media tomorrow and follow along with us as we're in the audience for the keynote and fun stuff and watch it on Twit, right? Leo's going to be covering it, right?
Leo and Jeff Jarvis is Andy Anatko, I think.
Power line.
I could be
Nice.
wrong with Andy, but I'm pretty sure Andy is in as well for live coverage of the keynote, twit.tv/live tomorrow, which is May 10th, Wednesday.
The day after me and
10
Flo's birthday.
a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, not very long from now. If you're so many people listen and watch this show, longer distance than there is that keynote to tomorrow. So, but regardless, that's happening tomorrow. And then we've got a pretty special interview with Dave Burke and Samir Samat from Google. We're going to be doing that tomorrow at Google. It will not be live cast, but it will be put onto our Twit news feed. So twit.tv/news. And, so it's not going to, I should just reiterate, that interview is not going to end up on All About Android. Usually these interviews end up on All About Android, but we didn't want to postpone tonight's show to tomorrow. And we had this opportunity to get us all in the same room. So you kind of get both. You get tonight's show and you get the interview tomorrow. Just go to twit.tv/news. Yeah. And, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And we'll be in the press area sitting with Flo. Although, Wynn, I think you're going to be in the developer area.
I think I'm
right?
going to, yeah.
So we're going to be like, oh.
Maybe one of us will even talk to Sundar. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Ooh.
I mean,
if we're
he's
lucky.
probably going to be there. Yeah.
I'd like to see Hiroshi. That'd be nice.
Yeah, Hiroshi will be there.
Yeah, Hiroshi will be there.
almost
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah. So.
Hiroshi will be there, so you can say hi.
And it will be the fun time where we could talk to people who work at Google and not be sure if they know that we have a little thing where their mouth moves or not. So, that's always fun.
That is.
And then
yes.
not reference it. Or
We're like,
not
oh,
refer to it.
yeah, that thing again.
Because here's the truth. Here's the truth. We might think they care, but they don't watch. They don't listen. They don't know. They may, that's what I've learned all these years. The people we're talking about on this podcast, they don't listen to the podcast that's talking about them. So
No, they're living the life.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're busy.
They're not listening to news about them living the
They're
life.
busy doing the stuff that we're talking about. So,
Thing.
anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of doing the stuff.
All right. So let's move on from Google I/O because there are a lot of different news items outside of I/O, and maybe some of them venture back in, but we'll get there. We wondered on last week's show when Google was going to finally bring Passkeys to Android, and sure enough, Google did the thing a day later. Passkeys.
Are you sure they're not
officially?
listening?
Well, yeah, that's true. Maybe they are. Maybe they're waiting for us. But
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure they're.
Yeah.
They
I
have
think
this
it's
planned.
Yeah.
G.co/passkeys will take you to a page for managing your own passkeys. Many of my phones, when I logged into there, were already registered. I was like, oh man, I still have all those phones tied to my account. And they all had passkeys to them.
Oh, wow.
You can visit a page on a new device and then create a passkey with that device. If you go to that G.co/passkeys page on your new device, down at the bottom, you'll see a create passkey. And so you can tell Google, the Google Passkey system, this device is a passkey and authenticates as me. So it's a different way of logging into your account, into your Google account specifically. Instead of entering in your password or the other authentication methods, I can, for example, go to log into my site, choose passkey as my login, and then on my phone, authenticate with my thumbprint or fingerprint or whatever fingerprint you use to authenticate with. And that will clear it. And boom, you're into your account.
Until you can't find your phone.
Well, I have other...
devices.
I mean,
luckily you have devices.
I have a ton of devices, but B, I can also use my other authentication methods, right? It's not only passkeys.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I think Google will let you back up your passkey from your phone to your Google account, so you can restore it and create it on another phone if you happen to lose yours.
Should we try this live, Jason?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Jason doing it.
For Ron's
Let's see.
birthday.
Why don't we get it all set up, Jason?
Why don't you show us all the security measures you have enabled?
Yes,
on your
right.
Google account?
Let me show you my total
surely
security.
a big deal.
God, if we could recreate the time Jason locked himself out of his accounts live on a show.
Yeah. Two-factor authentication. It was a thing.
It was an episode of This Week in Google where Jason set up his 2FA live and then proceeded to lock himself out of all this.
Because I used my Google Voice phone number as the authentication phone number. And you can't log in to Google account without your 2FA phone number. And you can't use your 2FA phone number because it's a Google Voice number that you used to receive the 2FA codes.
I shouldn't laugh.
Tail
I'm sorry.
there.
It was a little bit of a nightmare, and it happened in real time live on a show.
It was fantastic. It was
there's
seriously.
that.
It's seriously, it's one for the Hall of Fame. It really was like a Hall of Fame
search
moment.
for This Week in Google. The episode I think was called Two-Factor Folly, and if you search for that, you'll find it.
Yeah. But hey, I for one welcome the end of the password.
Yeah,
I think it's
we're a long ways from the end of the password.
I know, but this is a step in the right direction. I mean, literally at my day job, we now have to have a 16-character password with multiple uppercase, lowercase symbols, and it's like it's hard to remember, right?
Yeah.
And admittedly, I've got Bitwarden in now. I'm keeping track of my passwords that way and keeping them all stored that way. But it's between the frequency that you need to change passwords and update them and add in 2FA stuff. So there needs to be a new paradigm. So if this is the right step in the right direction, I welcome it.
Did you get the passkey thing, or did you go and check it out for yourself?
Not yet. I have not yet. I wanted to kind of sit down and be calm before I changed all the things and not do it while I'm traveling.
Why don't you do it live on the show? I did it last time. Take one for the team, Wayne.
That's a
Come
good
on.
idea. Go for it. Let's do it right now. Come on.
Yeah, sure. That'll only take an hour of my life, and you get to see Win cry for the first time when I start locking myself out of everything. No, I'm looking forward to it too, especially just thinking about all of our less tech savvy friends and family. Looking forward to the day where I don't have to tell my dad that he needs to stop using, never mind, the same password for all his accounts. I'll just say that much.
Yeah, it is. It does seem like eventually, if everything is using passkeys, it perhaps creates an easier landscape. But I think right now it actually makes things a little more complicated.
Yeah,
a little bit more
there's a
hybrid.
learning curve.
Password, passkey landscape we have right now. It's a little
Well, it's going to be a transition.
And when
period,
would
so
we
it's
ever
challenging,
even be
right?
there? There was a point, God, was it on, I can't remember which of the Twit shows, probably Security Now, but maybe This Week in Google or Twit, I'm not sure, where they basically said there would need to be a point where everyone, every site you ever went to, every router, all these things, they were all over on passkey. And there's so much tied into the password paradigm, that that will probably never happen. I mean, as long as passwords are even an option, they've been around for so long that it's hard to see any time in the even distant future where it's like passwords are irrelevant now entirely. We can get rid of them entirely. You know what I mean? old, outdated sites are still going to rely on passwords. I mean, it's just, so I don't know.
I was getting all hopeful over here, sitting here like for a passwordless future, but now I'm just kind of just dragged back down to earth.
I mean, destroy the fire.
When they look back in history, this is the time of like turmoil and like inconsistency. Again, I'm a broken record. I want to get to the Roddenberry future, to the Star Trek future, where all technology is ubiquitous and everything just works and everything is secure and lovely. But
just keep waiting.
Not in our lifetime. Not in our lifetime.
In corporate speak, this is so there's storming, norming, forming, norming, and performing. In terms of team dynamics. Sorry, super corporate speak, not very fun at all. So I guess you could say like maybe we're going from storming to forming like the ultimate solution. And at some point it'll be norming when it gets more ubiquitous, and then performing when things just work. I'm sorry. I've been in corporate life too long. But that's
I've never even heard this.
Should we do some blue sky blue sky engineering here?
Yeah,
there are no bad ideas. Let's get the whiteboard out.
Let's
do a post-it note exercise.
Synthesize or like ideate. Wait.
Ideate. Oh, ideate.
Blue sky solutioneering. That's what I want.
There we go. Oh my God. Solutioneering. Love it.
I've never heard that before. I kept hearing storming and thinking storming the castle. Have fun storming the castle. Okay. Princess Bride, sorry. You've got the next story.
Yeah, and we already talked a little bit last week about, Apple and Google joining forces to make trackers a little less creepy and to kind of develop together a kind of a more industry standard for trying to detect nefarious uses of trackers, especially with Apple already having AirTag and having kind of their own, proprietary solutions, but Google wanting to come in there with, I forgot that their air tracker was codenamed Grogu. It's probably also a copyrighted name. But today, like this week, Apple and Google have actually submitted a draft specification for this new kind of standard for, tracking trackers or cracking down on trackers, tracker cracking. Anyway, they submitted a draft specification to the Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, which is an organization that is the quote premier standards development organization for the internet. Now, these are voluntary standards. It's not like they're the internet police and someone's going to come in if, some like third party manufacturer creates a tracker that doesn't adhere to these standards, but it is a way for them to kind of together draft something, draft basically OS level, tracking of unwanted tracking devices. The OS is tracking the trackers. Who tracks the trackers? Who tracks the trackers?
Who's tracking the trackers?
Who's tracking the trackers? And this would allow...
Who's trackering the trackers?
Who's trackering the trackers? I like those words. That's English. So that would allow Bluetooth tracking devices to be compatible with this across iOS, Android, and of course other companies like Samsung, Tile, Chipolo. Is it Eufy? Eufy?
Yeah, Eufy.
Pebblebee. Obviously, more security is good. More privacy is good. So any kind of OEM that is kind of interested in this technology is obviously interested in this draft specification. So product implementation is actually expected to be released by year's end. So a little update to the end of nefarious AirTag and other usages. So moving forward,
this seems awfully familiar.
I mean, we did talk about this a little bit last week, and so I apologize that I didn't set this up. But
they wrote a thing.
There's more detail here though, and especially I think it's important to bring up because earlier today on Security Now, Steve Gibson talked a lot about this, and he basically this episode was episode 1 of 2 where he's really diving deep in the actual spec to really get a sense of what's going on there. And he said some details about this that are kind of interesting to know and definitely should know about this. They're going to know how long that a user's been away from the device has been away from the owner, and then behavior changes when that happens. So that's kind of some of the orchestration that's going to happen on the OS level. But this is interesting. There's going to be a creation, Steve says, of an industry-wide pairing registry that matches verifiable ID information of the owner of an accessory at the time of pairing. And that's going to be recorded and associated with the serial number of the accessory. So the phone, the email. So essentially, it's like a tracking database of like who owns what and all of these
that's cool
tracking devices. and availability made to law enforcement by request.
Oh.
So it goes down this kind of dark road where it's like, on one hand, yay, this is really, this has the potential to be really helpful and crack down on things that are really bad. On the other hand, it kind of opens the door for other really bad things.
This is that Pandora's box again. It's just like, who's tracking the trackers? Now the tracker trackers are tracking you.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So
I think I'm following.
And this will not be clickbait headlines at all. As once the first time somebody gets busted or
the law enforcement, the just like the legal ramifications of this, and like obviously from an engineering perspective, this probably makes detecting unwanted trackers easier, but the easy solution is not always the best solution. It's just it's a fact of life in engineering. So just like, okay, I kind of get it that this will make it easier, but easier for whom and for what purpose?
Easier one way and a lot murkier in another.
Well, I mean, regardless, the new specification should work with Finder Network, which is like Google's, the Google analog to, the Apple's Find Me ecosystem that does not just like, find my device, like find phones, like tablets, like Google has, but kind of like is going to be more a broader scope of any kind of like, location enabled device. And I feel like a downer now, having to kind of gone into like the dystopian hole we have, but it might use ultra wideband. So that's nice. So there we go.
There we go. All
right. That's wow.
Well, unless scary privacy news, talk about Google TV, my near and dear. I do love my Google TV, by the way. It's fantastic, but it's not without its issues. And so I was glad to hear that Google's got an update that's rolling out that are doing two really important things as a Google TV owner that I'm very happy to see. Google says it will reduce wait times at device wake up, which as somebody who uses their Google TV, especially with kids screaming to watch Bluey, and you go to press the power button, you got to wait for it to wake up. Those couple of seconds are crucial.
No, it's a long time.
It's a long time.
It's
yeah.
Forever.
And then lastly, the thing that I've had the biggest problem with, they're actually going to add automatic hibernation of apps that have been used for 30 plus days as a way,
that's pretty cool.
But as a way to save space, because there's not a lot of space on that device. And I've run out of space on it in the past, which is very frustrating when I can't have all the apps I want installed because I don't have enough memory. It's insane. So
I don't care about app hibernation on my phone necessarily because I've got tons of storage there. On Google TV, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned, Michelle, before the show that maybe this.
Yeah, there's actually
there's some
the
detail
app
missing
hibernation thing is actually a bit more interesting on Android TV because it's going to be supported by every single app on Google Play for Android TV. Because starting this month, Google Play actually made it a requirement for all apps, not just new apps, but existing apps too, to use the app bundle format. And on phones, that's actually still only required for new apps, not apps that were previously using the original APK format. So if you're using an Android TV device and it's running Android TV 12 or Google TV 12 version or higher, it's going to be able to support this app hibernation feature.
Very cool.
That is really cool.
And then lastly, it's going to add support for the soon-to-be mandated app bundles.
Which is exactly what...
Right. Which will do that and minimize it by 25%, which is fantastic.
Which you should do anyway. It's not that hard to use app bundles. It's like, it just do the thing, y'all. Just do the thing.
I'm not even a developer, and I use app bundles. I know how to use... No, I actually don't know how to use app bundles, but I can imagine it's probably really easy.
Tie it up with a little string. And
that's all it is, right?
Just like those old...
You just put it in a backpack. And
totally.
You hand the backpack over and you say, here's your app.
Yeah, and they just pick out what they need from it for your users.
See, I could be a developer.
Absolutely.
It's easy.
Totally. I mean, what do I do all day?
Yeah, I could be a developer. I'll just use Bart. Okay. And finally, to round out the news, rolling back app updates. I'm just gonna throw this over to you, Michelle, because I will admit this one lost me a little bit.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, the May security update rolled out this month, and it wasn't terribly interesting. I mean, most monthly security updates aren't really interesting if you don't know exactly what's being fixed. But there was one thing that's been fixed that I think some users might care about, especially if you're a Samsung user, because a couple of months back, there was this exploit that was being taken advantage of to do some cool things on Samsung devices. And basically the loophole that users were using to take advantage of that exploit has been patched. So what you can no longer do is you can't downgrade a system app anymore beyond the factory install version. So say you have version 2.0 of a particular system application installed on the OS, but version 1.0 has this cool little exploit that you want to take advantage of to root your phone. Before the May update, you could actually roll back the update to that vulnerable version and then do whatever you wanted. But now Android will say, hey, the factory installed version is version 2. We won't let you install anything older than that anymore. And this isn't really like a big security issue or a big deal, because the only way you could actually roll back the app is if you have physical device access and access to developer debugging tools. So it's not like some, rogue app on your phone could maliciously roll back updates to all of your system apps. It's only something the user themselves or someone with physical access could do. So it's a minor little tweak, but I think some, users who were taking advantage of this exploit on Samsung devices would like to know that this is no longer possible. And of course, anytime Google fixes an obvious loophole like this, why did they let you roll back and a system app beyond whatever was installed in the factory in the first place? Why is that? Why is that?
Why is that even
for so long? Yeah. Why is that even a thing?
It's like, and then Google's like, I don't know. That you're right. It shouldn't have been. And now it's not.
Yeah.
So okay, good job, Google. Good job. You're going to get a lot more good jobs, I think, over the course of the next 24 hours. So just get used to that, Google. Thank you, Michelle. All right. We are going to take a little break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android. And then we will get into some more news. I know it's listed as hardware, but that is false. It is just more news. We've just got lots of news, and more news coming up. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Delete Me. If you've ever searched for your name online, have you ever done that? If you didn't like how much of your personal information was available, maybe you felt, exposed, unsafe. You see your personal information in a search result and you're like, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that was out there. Well, this means that everybody can get to that information. Like, it just doesn't feel good, right? Since 2010, Delete Me has been on a mission to empower individuals and organizations by allowing them to reclaim their privacy and help them remove personal data from online sources. They have a wonderful team that's driven by a passion for privacy and a commitment to making it simple for customers, that's you, to use. So Delete Me actually helps reduce risk from identity theft, credit card fraud, robocalls, spam, cybersecurity threats, harassment, unwanted communications overall. So much of this stuff has to do with social engineering, and the more information and data that can be pulled to make that happen, it just makes that a heck of a lot easier for them to do that. So that's why Delete Me is so powerful. Delete Me is the most trusted privacy solution available, helping thousands of customers remove their personal information online. The average person, if you didn't know, has more than 2,000 pieces of data about them online that Delete Me can actually find and remove. That's a ton of data. Think about how much time that would take to just do that. And then, if Delete Me is doing that for you, that's the amount of time that it saves you. Delete Me has removed more than 50 million pieces of data for their customers. One customer actually said, I signed up and they took it from there. Awesome service, already seeing results. And I can attest, it's super fast. Like when I first signed up for Delete Me to try it out for myself, initially going into it, I was like, I'm not really worried. Like, I'm a public person. I do shows online. Like, there's not a whole lot of information out there that I feel like I need to control. But then I didn't really think about like the details, the addresses or phone numbers or whatever might be hidden out there, right? And once you put it in, I mean, it was a cool process to kind of put the information in and then wait a few days. And then I got that report back and I was like, holy cow, like that's actually a lot. Like, a lot of my information spread out amongst the internet. And I guarantee you, if it's that way for me, it's that way for you too. It's worth checking into. So here's how it works. You first sign up, you submit some basic personal information to kind of feed it some of the information that you're looking for, right? This is information for removal from search engines. Just go to joindeleteme.com/twit to kick that off. And then Delete Me experts will actually find and remove your personal information from more than 580 data brokers. That helps reduce your online footprint. It keeps you and your family safe in the process. And then once the removal process starts, you're going to receive a detailed Delete Me report. That's the report I was talking about, within 7 days. And then beyond that, Delete Me will continue to scan and remove your personal information every 3 months. And with automated removal opt-out monitoring, they're going to ensure records don't get repopulated after being removed. So it's kind of a continuous check that these things don't pop up again. This means names, addresses, photos, emails, relatives, phone numbers, social media, property value. I mean, so many data points can be tracked and deleted. As the data broker industry expands, contracts, and morphs, they're going to continue to add new sites and features to ensure their service is both simple to use and effective in removing personally identifiable information. And since privacy exposures and incidents affect individuals differently, their privacy advisors ensure that all their customers have the support they need when they need it. So protect yourself and reclaim your privacy by going to joindeleteme.com/twit. Make sure when you do that, they use the code TWIT. And that's joindeleteme.com/twit. Use code TWIT. When you do that, you're going to get 20% off. Pretty awesome. Check it out for yourself. And we thank Delete Me for their support of All About Android. All right. We are back for the news. More news. That's right. Over to Win. With the weather. No.
With weather. So the forecast on background work as Android is that it's going to be more consistent, at least on Samsung. So this is a super technical thing, but basically every time you run any of your favorite Android apps, there's going to be something happening in the background. So as Android devs, we do a lot of stuff that takes a long time. So whether that could be downloading your favorite podcast in your podcast app, to say actually playing a music file in your music player of choice, things like this. So these are things that take a long time, and we don't want to make you sit and wait there while the downloads happen, while the things sync, while the music plays. You want to be doing other things. So on Android, we have this whole concept of background work, which is basically a set of API tools that we have for doing things in the background and allowing you as the user to either go somewhere else, do whatever you want, whether that's the same app, another app. And a lot of this stuff gets really heady, and there's this concept of within background work, there's still foreground and background work within your background work. But there's a lot of divisions between, so your music player, right? That happens in the foreground. You notice that, and you get that little notification in your shade that's hey, this thing is playing. Or if you have to download something very specific and very immediately, you'll usually get a download, notification in your bar. So that's a foreground service. And so in Android in recent years, the Android team has really been trying to get us to be a little more careful about how we use these foreground services. Again, because of that notification, because they take up a lot more resources, and because they're basically priority things. They need to be done now, whereas more low-key things say, when I worked at Trello, you could actually download some boards that you used regularly, in the background, opportunistically, so that when you go on the subway, maybe you might have it there if the app had a chance to download it. So there's certain things that can be deferred, that can happen opportunistically. So there's these two different splits. Anyway, this is all very complicated stuff. And the problem is that it's hard to do this stuff right in general. What kind of work do I need to do where? And then you throw in OEMs and the OS in there. So a lot of times, if say you're using an app and something is weird with something that's happening, some kind of background work, it's not always our fault. It's not always our fault, just because it's very complicated stuff. And again, because different OEMs have their different flavors of OSs implementing these different things.
There's so much going on
There's so much going on. Yeah, even explaining it is hard. But so basically, in an effort to make things work the way they're supposed to work, Google has announced that they are basically, working with partners and strengthening collaborations to make all of this junk work better. And the first partner they're really working hard tightly with on this is, of course, Samsung. And so they have committed to make...
Of course,
Samsung.
Right?
So all this stuff that I mentioned about these very restrictive consumption, high consuming tasks, basically Samsung's promising that on One UI 6, these foreground services, these important things that take up a lot of work that the OS is doing, will be guaranteed to work as intended so long as they are developed according to Android's new foreground service API policy. So, I mean, that's good, but basically they're telling us if we follow the rules that they've already given us, then it should work as intended.
Yeah.
That's
Easily
that's
written.
the news.
Don't follow
right?
the rules, then it's going to break. Okay?
Yeah.
It's
Google's basically trying. They made mistakes several years back,
Jeez.
and they're slowly trying to crawl their way back into like fixing it for developers. So like the issue, I think it all stems back from the fact that in China, GMS isn't allowed. So Google Play Services, all those APIs for push notifications, for location, none of that is available in China. So they have to use alternative services. But then there's a fragmentation of all these alternative services. And then all these Chinese OEM smartphone makers figured out, well, you know, you have 10 different apps using 12 different services. That's draining the battery. So let's implement these features that, you know, saves battery life by killing off these apps in the background. But then those features make their way into the global versions of their software. And then you have this massive issue where you have a certain app just, you know, being ended in the background while you're using it, or like you're listening to a podcast, all of a sudden it just stops and you don't know why, right? So over these years, this fragmentation has just caused a lot of these problems for app developers, for users. And finally, Google's been working to implement a lot of native battery saving features into Android to hopefully wean off OEMs from their own custom features so that Android works more consistently for app developers.
Yeah. And it's been hard because part of that solution has been to kind of really enforce rules on us on how we use these things to make it better, to try to like circumvent some of that, but it only goes so far, and it makes our job a lot harder because it's honestly, I had a hard time explaining it because it's just hard to understand and hard to know what the right thing to do is. And so, as Michelle said, they're trying to fix mistakes and make things better, but it's a little bit of an underwhelming announcement. I'm sorry to be like, we're trying to make it work the way it's supposed to work and how we promised you it would work. So there you go.
They just need to assign Bard to the task.
Pretty much. Just Bard, how do we fix foreground services?
Just a couple of lines of code, right?
Yeah, just a couple.
That's all it is.
No biggie, not all, across all
So easy,
OEMs,
Bard
and just
could do
like,
it.
yeah. I can
So
barely
many different
explain it.
variables at play. I just can't even imagine. Anyway, making it work as intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Ewan, for that. Moving on. So Android Automotive is looking to look a little better with material design at some point. But it looks like the OEMs will have more control over it. Michelle, what's the story here? What's going on with Android Automotive?
So if you're familiar with the latest iteration of material design, aka Material U, the colors that you get, you know, throughout your system UI, throughout your applications, that's all derived from your wallpaper. Whereas in Android Automotive, you know, since you're dealing with putting software on a car, there's a lot of safety, you know, things to take into consideration when you're designing a UI or any kind of interaction that user has to go through. So you can't just like, you know, you have to be very careful with how you pick the colors and the design so that, you know, there's no chance that you can't see the button you're about to press or you can't see some critical information.
Or distracts you from driving.
Yeah, distractions, right? Yeah. So instead of like algorithmically determining, you know, the colors to use for the UI, Google is leaving it up to OEMs to pick the colors they want. And there's some interesting things they can do with that. They can say, oh, depending on your drive mode, we can have one set of colors, or, you know, when you're parked, another set of colors. Maybe it's a nighttime or daytime, another set of colors. So they can do all sorts of things with this new system. And then applications that, you know, want to opt into this, they can add this new library into their applications that will pull the colors that are generated or that were pre-generated by the system into their apps. And I'm assuming Google's going to be publishing some documentation soon for app developers. The documentation they publish right now is for the actual Android Automotive car makers. So none of it is really directly relevant to app developers. But I'm assuming this is something we'll hear more about, you know, maybe tomorrow. Who knows?
I mean, it seems like
more about it.
You know,
it's an opportune time to
Yeah,
find
it's an
out about
opportune
this.
time.
Yeah,
Moment
exactly. Yeah.
that is deemed the right time.
Yeah.
Perhaps Google I/O.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so see, I don't have Android Auto, Android Automotive built into my vehicle.
Right.
I'm trying to remember because when I was in Costa Rica, the vehicle that we had did have Android. Well, it had an embedded Android Auto system, but that's different than Android Automotive. Is there any sort of I'm curious what kind of color customization capability you have with Android Automotive right now versus this? Like, how would this be any different than the customization they're able to do already?
So I think the examples that Google gave on the page is more like, so say you have a particular line of cars, made by the same automaker, but like just different models. You might have slightly different color branding, to signify a particular brand. So maybe if you roll off the shop and, your car is like red or something, maybe you could have a reddish theme that's like still safe to use.
Look, the list of cars that currently have Android Automotive range from like a lot of Volvos, 2023 Ford cars, 2023 Lincoln cars, right? So just from there, from a branding standpoint, Ford is going to have blue, right?
Yeah,
blue and metallic. That's kind of there. If you drive a Ford, you recognize that as a color palette. Whereas Lincoln, geez, now then this is like car brand trivia now. Like, can you name the signature colors of car brands? But Lincoln is more also metallic, but I feel like hints of red in there, right?
Yeah.
So
you're good. I probably wouldn't have been able to guess either of those.
But anyway,
I don't know.
But yeah, but it's not a lot. I mean, and admittedly, I'm looking at. I just quickly did a Google search, and it's as of September 21. So I'm sure there are new models added in here as well.
Yeah.
But like that's just an example of 2023 Fords, 2023 Lincolns. So.
Interesting.
That makes a lot of sense, though. I think a lot of times, being it again, big companies, storming, forming, norming, all this big corporate stuff, brand identity is a thing that people talk about all the time, regardless of what technical innovation you want. You always have to have a strong brand identity. So this makes a lot of sense. Because material design, when it first came out, like one of the big complaints was that all apps tend to look samesies, and so it just makes sense. That they want a strong brand identity to go with it.
I do remember that early material design days. It was like, oh, another app has material design and it looks just like that other app that has material design. Everything looked so similar.
Can't make people happy, huh?
It still looked better.
Totally, right.
Android doesn't have design. Oh, well, they have design, but
now it's unified. It's too unified. Now it's...
I still think it looks better than what was before.
Yes.
For sure. Well, and it's evolved a lot since then. I think at some point the brands were able to figure out how do we keep unique to our brand, but also still kind of follow these design notes. And that just took time. They got there eventually. But well, in other Mishal news, and something that we might actually hear about at Google I/O as well, are maybe not necessarily this news, but I feel like every Google I/O is another opportunity for Google to say, hey, here's a new Mainline module. And Mainline, for those who may have forgotten or haven't heard, it's components of Android that can be updated without the need for a major OS update. So those components are pulled out of that main system. They can be updated on or over the air. So it allows for devices to be kept more up to date in more different ways than it could prior to Mainline, because prior to Mainline, you had to have a full system update in order to get all of these, critical vulnerabilities in some cases, but just these major updates or major parts of the kernel, all these different things updated. Now, because of Mainline, they're components that can be updated individually. So I feel like at Google I/O, we often hear about like new modules that are revealed to be updated by Mainline, and I'm in the camp of more Mainline because I just love that direction. I think it's really like a really strong improvement to Android, and has been for a number of years now. What is the news here as far as like what we might see at Google I/O, but probably not? It sounds like from what you were writing, probably not.
Yeah, it's probably too late for this to end up in Android 14, but there's a comment in a recent code change that was submitted to the Android open source project that said basically exactly they're planning to turn the NFC stack into a Project Mainline module. So that would take all the Android components that consist of the NFC code, and that would turn that into an updatable modular system component. So that would be consistent across devices and updatable through Google Play. Now the question is, will this actually land in Android 15? And if so, would it actually become a mandatory component for OEMs? Because right now there are other Project Mainline modules that are actually optional for OEMs like Samsung, like OnePlus to implement. So the Bluetooth module is one example. The Wi-Fi module is also optional. The ultra wideband is also optional. So we don't know.
Optional. What does that actually benefit? I mean, I guess it benefits the OEM, right?
Yeah, it benefits the OEM because maybe maybe there's a lot of issues with something as complex as Bluetooth, especially, right? You want to make sure that functions really, really well and consistently. There's no bugs, right? So if you force something like, Google's version of the Bluetooth module onto everyone, there might be issues, and that might just cause a lot of
Don't
chaos.
really know, what you're setting yourself up for.
Yeah.
By doing that. Got it. Okay.
It was so funny because actually on the drive up here, I listened to a not so recent but fairly recent version of the Android Developers Backstage, which is a podcast run by former guests on the show, Chet Haas and Roman Guy, and they were actually talking about Project Mainline. It gets really confusing at the end, and it's really funny to see two like very prominent members of the Android team get confused. But if you're kind of curious about Mainline and also compared to Project Trouble, there's a really good 10, 12, 15 minutes at the beginning where they talk about it. And the title of it is called Mainlining, which I found extremely funny. But yeah, if you're kind of curious about to get more technical in depth, more technical depth on that, you should check that out. So yeah, Android Developers Backstage Mainlining. But I just thought it was funny that I happened to read that. And then I looked at the doc and I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to hear some news about some new mainline components. If you had to guess, you're the right one to guess.
Yeah, we've already talked about some of them that are coming in 14, like the Health Connect is one of them.
Yep.
That's one we talked about before.
Totally.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense.
All right, more to come.
Okay, well, we haven't finished with Mashal yet because Mashal.
The Mashal hot
Oh, we
seat.
have you, Mashal.
Basically, this whole block by this one story.
You guys said we can't do an entire show on pre-Google I/O, so I just offered up whatever news, and y'all took it. So
take it away, Michelle.
Well, what I hate as a consumer, but I kind of sort of maybe understand as a developer, is that a lot of times certain apps will tend to lock into portrait mode. So generally, the ideal is that if you have an app on your Android phone and you turn your phone to landscape, the app should also turn to landscape. You know what I'm saying? Seems like
world.
In a perfect world, that's kind of how it's supposed to work. And ideally, if I had to read whatever the official spiritual documentation for Android development was, that would be commandment number 2 or something. But it doesn't usually happen like that. And I say that as we know it's ideal, but as I've said many times, people tend to ROI things like, responsive layout and actually handling rotation. It sucks, but it's a thing. And so a lot of apps tend to lock into portrait, which means that if for some reason you're holding your phone the wrong way, you might be trying to read sideways. But I was very excited to see that, Michelle, you figured out a way to maybe get past that and make things work the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, so this is actually an official Google recommended implementation that's available since Android 12. So Google recognizes that there are a lot of apps out there that still lock themselves to portrait mode, and it's their prerogative whether or not they want to actually support large screen devices like tablets and foldables. Yeah. Google is still not in the business of forcing developers to do that, because that would cause a lot of friction and a lot of work for developers to do. But they also recognize that tablets and foldables, they're becoming more and more popular. So this kind of conflict between what developers want and the experience that users are getting right now. So instead of, hoping, saying Google is telling developers, please do this. They've been saying that for years, please support large screen devices. Mm-hmm. So kind of nice middle ground they come up with is a way to override the app's request for the orientation that they're specifying. So for example, if an app says, I want to be in portrait mode all the time, the OEM can say, no, you're going to be in landscape mode. But as a compromise, that app won't just be stretched out to fill the entire screen in landscape mode, because that would make it really ugly. A lot of apps would just look really bad. Yeah. So instead what they're doing is they're putting it in a letterbox. Yeah. So the app would still be in its native aspect ratio, like a portrait, candy bar orientation most of the time, but there would be some background, filling up the left or right side. And that's customizable by the OEM. You could put the wallpaper there. You could blur the wallpaper. You can maybe have the app move to the left side or the right side, depending on your device. That's something that Google has added there, and they're hoping OEMs take advantage of it. But so far, it doesn't seem like any really have. Although there are some OEMs like Samsung and Lenovo that offer their own takes on this kind of feature, through their various labs features on Samsung devices, for example.
Yeah.
But this official Google implementation, seems like something they might be using on their devices, who knows? And, it's interesting to see that Google has this feature, but there are some devices I heard from some reviewers complaining about the OnePlus Pad and the Oppo Find N2. Like whenever they unfold their Find N2, because it's a wide body foldable, whenever they unfold it, it's in landscape mode. So a lot of apps that are forced to portrait mode, they have to flip it again just to use apps like Venmo or Authy. So by using this built-in command to override the app's orientation preference, they could restore that and have the app be displayed in a letterbox.
I like that.
And so yeah, that is a big problem. And on the Fold, it does work that way. I do get letterboxing and kind of cool extra One UI features where, as you said, I can kind of shift. Like if I'm in bed and I've got my Fold open really wide and I'm just feeling lazy, I can actually kind of shift the UI over to be wherever my thumb is. And it would be nice for that to be OS. And to be perfectly honest, as a developer, if the OS does that for me for free, it's just more like up until now, because we haven't had like kind of compensation UI like that for our bad decisions. You kind of just have to pick between we don't have time or design resources to implement this, and like hopefully based on usage numbers, 80% of our users only use our phone. Like in this situation, usually you kind of think it's okay, but I really don't think that. I can't imagine a lot of developers would have a problem with the OS compensating and doing things like letterboxing and adding that on. It just seems like reinforcing our laziness
or giving you the night off.
Yeah. It is giving us a night off. Okay,
Yeah,
so I don't have to stay up to 3 but I
depends on how you frame it.
Yeah, well, we should do it anyway. But thank you, Google, for making up for us.
And I do want to be the voice of turning off auto rotate in the control panel, at least on the Pixel side of things, right? Where it's like, I want to stay, portrait mode. And so just don't do any rotation.
So funny.
Like
my behavior, my default behavior there has shifted over the years.
Has it really?
There was a time where I hated, I would not lock it into place because I wanted the widescreen. But at a certain point I was like, but the widescreen home screen is really ugly and weird. And,
what I just can't stand, is the in bed or on the couch or whatever, and then the dance with whatever.
And then you rotate it, and then like 2 seconds later, it catches up with you.
And then you try to go back, and then it flips back, and that's so just turn it off. Just turn it off. Don't rotate. Keep it. Like I do think it's neat to add letterboxing and like because you don't want that stretch out experience, but then like you're wasting screen space. You know what I mean? So, these are like these deep UI adjustments that they need to work. But whenever you talk about OEM specific tweaks, that goes back to what you were talking about with the background stuff, where it's another layer or another peel off of a reality that can happen that needs to be accounted for. So just turn auto rotate off.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. Take it from Ron. All right, we've got some app news coming up here in a moment. But first, I want to give you a little word about, us. Not you three.
We've talked enough about us.
Yeah, not about you three, but about us, Twit, because we actually, so if you come into the studio, as the three of you did, on the wall, it says we are dedicated to building a highly engaged community of tech enthusiasts by offering them the knowledge they need to understand and use technology in today's world. That is the Twit mission statement right there. And we've had that up there since we moved to the East Side studio a number of years ago. And what's critical to that is the partnerships that we make with the brands that we trust, because we vet all of the brands that we actually work with pretty deeply in order to bring sponsors onto the network. Because we know that you as an audience member, we're introducing you to these brands, to these companies and their products and everything like that. We know that you trust us. Did you know that half of our listeners are in management positions or above? 65% are involved in their company's decision making. So we've got some really high level people here listening to Twit and watching our shows. Our audience raises the bar for us and our partners. And that really explains why our network continues to stay at the top for delivering the tech news that we do every single day. We do it here on All About Android and all of our other shows, and doing it reliably. Partnering with Twit if you work at a company that, is interested in partnering with Twit, that basically means you're going to get the gold standard in podcast advertising. You get a ton of services. You don't just get me or Leo or Micah or Ant or any of our network hosts reading an ad. That's certainly part of it, getting out that brand message. You get full service continuity team. So we have a whole team that supports everything that we do on an ads basis here, from copywriting to graphic design. It's the whole deal. You get embedded ads that are actually unique every single time. We always over deliver on impressions, in fact. So that's pretty awesome. Onboarding services, ad tech with pod sites, which is free for direct clients and detailed reporting. You get courtesy commercials. Those are actually shareable across social media and landing pages. So that's a little value add there. And you get other free goodies, things like mentions in our weekly newsletter that are sent to, we have thousands of fans subscribe to that, bonus ads, social media promotion. And basically we want long-term partners that want to grow with us. And we've had so many partners grow with us over the years. If you've been a fan of the Twit network, some of these partners. In fact, we've got a couple of testimonials here. Tim Broom, the founder of IT Pro TV, they've advertised on our network for 10 years now, still with us, I might add. And actually, Tim said we would not be where we are today without the Twit network. And that is true. Mark McCreary, the CEO of Authentic, who's partnered with Twit for 16 years, said the feedback from many advertisers over 16 years across a range of product categories is that if ads and podcasts are going to work for a brand, they're going to work on Twit shows. That just illustrates how effective what we do here is. So this is really just a message to, tell you, if you have a business, you want to elevate your brand, you should reach out to us. At least hit off an email and we can talk to you about what we can do to work with you on this. It's advertise@twit.tv. And you can get to work with twit.tv's world-class audience. That's advertise@twit.tv. We love what we do here. We love being in a position to tell people about the really incredible technology and advancements happening out there. We'd love to do that for you too. So advertise@twit.tv, and thank you for that. All right. And now we've got some app news. So let's jump in. All right.
Righty. I can still hear that little jingle, even though we can't hear it.
I know, me too. I'm kind of dancing to it right now.
I can hear it.
I have all the jingles in my head. So, yeah. Oh, Jeff Kosmicki. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah.
I still love Remember when I ran into Jeff at a show in Brooklyn once?
Yeah.
That was fun. Jeff's a good dude. So. All right, Glenn, you get the first one. If I hear anything more about check marks, my God.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ron. You're gonna. So, I mean, did anybody have a blue check mark before the check mark apocalypse on the bird site? Nope. Okay.
Nope, never did.
Would you like to have one? I mean, because if you don't want to go to the bird site and deal with all that nonsense, Gmail is actually adding a blue check mark to Signal verified senders. So this is building on a system that they implemented in 2021, which was for verified brand logos using the BIMI, the brand indicators for message indication standard. So now they're going to add on top of that a kind of check to make sure that, basically the person that is sending you an email from a particular domain is actually the owner of that domain. So this is going to be based on strong authentication with domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. Oh wow, that's a DMARC. We'll call it DMARC because Win can't actually say the whole
conformance.
Conformance. The conformingness.
Not conformists.
Conformance.
Yeah, that is kind of hard to say.
Conformance and logo verification with a VMC issued by certificate authorities such as Intrust or DigiCert. So basically, this is what we kind of all had hoped blue checks would be, and basically allowing you to distinguish when you're getting an email from an actual verified sender rather than someone who is impersonating, someone sending an email from a certain domain. It is meaningful.
do find this really interesting, despite the blue checkmark aspect of it, which is like, come on, just be a little more creative and come up with something else. But still, I just recently went down like a major DMARC rabbit hole with my own server because something happened and like the email setup and stuff like that, and we were getting folks sending from our domain for one of my companies was getting rejected and getting sent back because the DMARC profile wasn't clear. So if we were sending to somebody at a Gmail account, it was bouncing back and saying, hey, we can't verify you are who you say you are. So we're going to bounce back. So I had to figure out the DMARC and the DKIM and like SPF and like all this like deep IT, like I was in the Google help things figuring it all out. But like once I got into it and figured it out, it's a bunch of stuff you put in on your DNS on your mail server stuff, kind of that validate, and there's a key that matches. I use Google Workspace, so there's a key that matches to it. So now someone getting an email from my domain knows it is truly coming from someone on my domain, and having a visual kind of cue to that, I think, is a good thing to do. Just don't make it a blue check mark. That's all. So, but it's a very cool technology. Like the whole DMARC stuff is like, I got into it for a bit. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So.
Yeah. Why is it a particular blue seal with a white check mark in the middle is how we've agreed? Why are we agreeing that conformance? It's conformance. So it started rolling out as of May 3rd and will be available over the coming days and weeks. It's available to all Google Space customers as well as legacy G Suite Basic and business customers, and will be available to the rest of us with personal Google accounts. So,
why check mark? Why not have like a little hot dog guy with thumbs up or like something just something to like that make cool. This is a legit.
Nothing
thing.
says
or a
authentic
safe
business email like
smiling
a hot dog
guy.
thumb guy.
Let's all go to the lobby. But I
don't know. Cousin Ujala in chat says green bubble.
Yeah, that's what,
be a green
bubble or green check mark, or like a safe, like a lock, some sort of like secure, like something. I don't know.
It might clash with SS. Wow. See,
They're getting rid of that icon though.
Yeah.
The lock icon.
So can they take it?
Yeah.
Like we'll just. That won't be confusing.
That would be confusing. Although that would be confusing, and that's why I'm actually surprised they didn't do that.
That's exactly.
Or what about like a postage stamp in a safe, or like something to like this is like I don't know, like an envelope.
Because we all know what a check mark means. A check mark means good, or you know what I mean, or okay.
Well, you're doing the happy hot dog guy
because I don't have a check mark as a thumb.
Exactly, So I don't know. Well,
I'm trying to do a check mark with my hand, but it's just not working.
We'll just do the Asian heart, which is just like that. It's just that. It's a heart. It's like Korean in Korean culture. You do that.
Oh,
for
okay.
hearts instead of this.
It's not,
anyway.
Anyway. All right. Whoa. All right. Well, we were talking earlier in the show about AI. And if you're looking for some cool AI-ness stuff to come to your Google world, Google Messages or Android Messages will soon get a new AI-powered feature called Magic Compose. And actually, if we're taking bets on what might appear tomorrow at Google I/O, this could show up in the presentation. We'll see. And basically, this will give you a little assistance in writing your messages. And so, like tone or style, so you can have a formal message versus informal, to delightful, where you can get across excited, feeling excited. You can also use the music notes emoji for lyrical responses, for kind of musical stuff. And each of these will take what you've written and offer suggestions on how they could be rewritten in those styles. So if I want to tell Jason, can't wait to be there tomorrow, and I say, I want it to be more excited, it'll make the response that much more excited.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of work for text message.
Yes, it does. So, okay. So one of these,
I want them to get the message and then propose, like, here's your response, yes or no. Like,
right.
Like write it for me in advance. Don't zhuzh up what I've done.
So 9 to 5 Google has the example. Yeah. It's a response to a text thread, where the response is, okay, I'll move the van. And they triggered the lyrical suggestion, which actually wrote like a poem.
Nice.
So it took, okay, I'll move the van to, sure, I'll move the van. I'll do it right away. I'll get it out of the way so you can have your space. It's a really horrible poem.
That's really not good poem.
But okay. It's a strange example, I guess, is where.
Could you imagine you're just in an urgent situation where you just need to communicate with someone? You accidentally hit the zhuzh it up to be like a haiku or something. And
I don't understand what this guy's saying.
What is going on?
What is this person saying?
But I do think the term Magic Compose could be used for like, you send me a message. It's like, hey, you got this message. Here's a response. Is this what you were going to say? Like, anticipate what my response is going to be.
But that was kind of the promise of Smart Reply, right?
Yeah.
Except what we've realized in using Smart Reply is it's very like specific to a few very canned things.
Yep.
It's not. It doesn't have a wider context to it outside of
communication amongst humans is very difficult for machines to understand.
Wait,
this is what we're learning.
I actually have a very funny story with Smart Reply. I was messaging my husband for something in the kitchen. I sent him, baby, can you help me? And apparently Smart Reply only gave him the response, no. Like that was the only Smart Reply. That was it. I was like, and then he just sent me a screenshot of that and then eventually came up and helped me after he stopped laughing. But I was like, to your point, sometimes the machines don't understand context, but I do like this.
Oh, it's a pretty succinct answer. If you just need to get the point across, like I cannot, and I only have one word and the amount of time to hit that button.
But that is true, and that's what will be the failing, or not the failing, but the challenge with all this AI stuff and ChatGPT and Bard and all this sort of stuff. And it goes back to the conversations I've had with social media vendors, like applications that do sentiment tracking or sentiment analysis on social media. And the example I always give when I'm talking to these vendors, because I'm trying to use them for work, is like it's very helpful to get a sense of, hey, we put this out there. Do people like it or don't like it, right? And generally, everyone I see, you get like a third like it, a third don't like it, and in the middle undetermined, because the algorithms don't understand the nuance of language, and especially in our kind of geek world, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, this is the S." Right. Yeah. I don't want to say the curse on air, but like this is the right. And they will see the curse and assume it's negative, even though that line is a very positive sentiment that I want to be seen. Right. And that's just an example of how much nuance in English language there is and why it's nearly impossible for AI to figure that stuff out. So,
and there's always going to be a gap because it's learning based on, data from us. So, if human culture moves forward, it's still going to take a while for that.
It's always playing catch up.
Yeah. It's always playing catch up. So,
So fascinating stuff.
Interesting. What could be one of many AI announcements happening tomorrow at Google I/O. All right, over to you, Michelle, because it's just a kind of a joke. Take it away, Michelle. Some people are seeing ads in their Play Store. I checked my Play Store search. I did not see an ad.
I have seen ads in my Play Store search.
So you open up Play Store, you tap into your search field, and it just showed you some ads, like little app ads, basically.
Right there.
Oh, you are.
I didn't even type anything, and it's giving me a calm.
Yeah, actually, so for the past couple of months, I think in November, there was a test being spotted where you would have, when you just open Google Play Store, tap the search bar, you would see a suggestion for like a recommended app, even though you haven't really typed anything. So how's I recommending you something?
I mean, ironic that my recommendation is Calm, the meditation app, by the way. Which
mine is Shazam.
I
apparently got one.
Mine's Moonly app, Moon Phases and Signs.
What is it saying about us? That's what I want to know.
But now more and more people have started to see those suggestions in their search page, and also some of those suggestions are marked ad. So we previously didn't used to see ads in the search page, but now some users are starting to see, ads actually appear in that page. So that's making us think, is Google starting to roll out more surfaces in the Play Store to show ads on? I wouldn't really be opposed to it because that's kind of, it's their storefront. They can do what they want. But, it's kind of interesting to see this kind of just pop up. And then, it got silently announced on the what's new in Google system updates page. So they actually had a little snippet where they said this was rolling out to users on the latest version of the Google Play Store. But, there hasn't been any like formal blog post, hey, we're doing this, here's how developers can opt in or whatnot. It's just been kind of a slow, quiet rollout for now.
I mean, if that ad wasn't there and I didn't have a whole list of like previously searched for items, it would be a blank page. So I guess it's another screen to throw ads into. I mean,
monetization.
It really is a shot in the dark that I'm going to open this up to search for something and Shazam's going to be there and I'm going to go, oh, okay.
Oh, right, Shazam. Let me do. Oh, I did want to meditate. Thank you for doing this, Calm.
I forgot what I was going to search for. I'm going to install this Shazam app, but hey, I can't blame Google for wanting to put an ad on a screen like that. If it's
what they do.
It's
their mission statement. So
yeah. All right. Thank you, Michelle, for all of the news. And now we get to thank JR.
We do, because our very own JR Rayfield has a little tip for us. If you find that your notifications need to be a little more flashy, What you got for us, JR?
Well, hello there. Happy I.O. week to one and all. While we're waiting for Google to give us the good stuff, I thought it'd be a fine time to think about an Android 14 edition that we're expecting to see take shape soon. And more important, to think about how you can bring that very same superpower onto your own phone this minute, no matter what Android version it's running. The feature in question is a nifty new set of options around notifications, spotted by our dear mutual pal, Michelle Rahman. The options are all about making notifications more useful by making sure you never miss the most important of them. To that end, they let you tell your phone to flash a custom-colored LED-like light on your screen anytime a new alert arrives. Or if you really want to get fancy, to have it flash your phone's back-facing camera light to catch your attention, and or give you an impressively affordable way to create an on-demand rave. Either approach could absolutely be helpful in the right situation, and here's the really cool part: you don't even need Android 14 to make any of that happen. In fact, you can create an even more advanced and customizable version of that exact same concept on any Android device this minute, if you know where to look. We'll start with the screen flashing, because that part's really easy. The key there is a handy little app called AOD Notify. It's one of my favorite Android enhancing tools and something I rely on constantly on my own personal devices. You'll have to make sure you get the right version, because AOD has different apps for different types of Android phones. But once you get the right one for your specific phone and get through the initial setup, you'll be able to have your screen light up in all sorts of different ways for different notifications. You can have incoming notifications from certain apps create a ring of light around the camera cutout at the top of your screen, for instance. Or you can have a small LED-style dot show up in your screen's corner. You can even set up an unmissable full-screen outline light in any color and style you like for certain especially important notifications. Plus, unlike Android 14's equivalent, you can actually specify which specific apps will cause any of those effects to happen. So for instance, you could have the heavy-duty flashing happen with something important like Slack or Gmail, but not with every other alert you get. And you can pick which color is used for your on-screen notification lights too, and even let AOD Notify automatically pull the primary color associated with each app, so it's super easy to know at a glance what type of alert is involved. Next, if you really want to make sure something important catches your eye, an app called Missed Call Reminder is exactly what you need. It lets you have your phone's camera flash light up for incoming notifications. And not just those from missed calls either, despite what its name implies. Just like our first tool, this one has tons of options and customization potential that go way beyond what Google's got cooking in Android 14. So there you have it, a couple of great Android 14-like features to hold you over while we wait for all the new Google goodies to land. If you want even more awesome new stuff to make your life easier, make sure you're not missing out on my Android Intelligence newsletter. It brings you 3 new things to try every single Friday, and I'll send you a trio of special bonus tips as soon as you sign up too. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit to get in on the action. That's androidintel.net/twit. A very happy I.O. week to everyone. It's going to be an interesting one. I'll see you soon.
JR, we'll miss seeing you there. I was just thinking,
sure.
we were kind of, we were listening because we love the apps.
We do.
But we were also talking a little bit about your shirt, which is always
a hot topic.
It is.
While it's rolling, but,
every time JR, every time he wears a shirt. It's an awesome shirt. And this, for audio listeners, it was a Google I/O 2015.
Which was the last I/O I attended, I believe.
Yeah, last at Moscone Center before Shoreline 2016.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure I hung out with JR at 2015.
Yeah.
He probably did too.
He probably wore that shirt on purpose for that very reason.
Yeah, so, I know. And just so you know, this was the year where Google's cardboard, the foldable cardboard, they got work for phablets on that. So, larger phones, I suppose. Google Maps got offline turn-by-turn navigation.
Ooh, big year.
That was a big one. Android M Doze mode. I remember Doze mode being pretty big news. I thought that was pretty cool back then.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Also, during JR's tip, Burke came in and threw more glitter at us, despite me saying no.
Wish you could have seen it.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he waited for when the show wasn't happening.
Right. Yeah.
Literally.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, good times. All right. Cool.
Google preparing to launch Android Pay, an API for seamless tap to pay transactions,
And then only to change the name.
Yeah,
And then change
a million
the name,
times.
And then change the name. Yeah.
Anyways, that was 2015. JR Rayfield, AndroidIntel.net, Android Intelligence newsletter. Subscribe, JR. We're going to miss you at Google I.O., but thank you for doing what you do.
Indeed.
All right. We have a couple of items of feedback coming up next.
All right.
AAA at twit.tv, 347 show AAA. Ron, you've got the first one.
Yes, our first email comes from Hilton Young from Virginia, good old Hilton, who wants to see if they can get me to say "Holy cow!" app draw. Smiley emoji.
There you go.
Hilton, I'm not your monkey, and I'm not here to perform for you.
He would never say those
I would
four
never
words.
say "Holy cow!" app draw.
Twice.
There you go. Anyway, that's going to follow me to my grave.
Yes, it
so his actual email says, anyway, your discussion on Android tablets is interesting. My first tablet was the Nexus 10 that I got for free by winning a contest.
Oh, that's a good,
cool.
That's a good gift.
I used it mostly in a case to watch Twit podcasts. There you go. When it died, I considered buying an iPad, but they were so expensive and didn't do everything I wanted it to do. So eventually I got a Surface Pro, best of both worlds. At the time, not every video streaming service had apps, so it was simple to just go to the webpage in the browser. Prior to that, I had an HP touchpad for years with Android on it. Best $50 tablet ever. Oof. Look forward to hearing how the OnePlus tablet and Pixel tablet are. Longtime fan from the Eileen Rivera days. Keep it up.
Nice.
Thank you, Hilton. I, too, am curious how the Pixel tablet is. You didn't get the OnePlus tablet yet, did you?
No, I didn't. I mean, if I had gotten it, you better believe I would have brought it on the show.
Sure,
I'd be showing it
What
to
would be
you.
really funny is it's like, no, yeah, it's over my desk. It's just sitting in a box. Why?
I'm
did you guys
sorry,
want to
Ron.
see that?
I'm sorry, it's in my back pocket. At the end of the show, that would be such a mic drop moment.
That would be great. For longtime listeners and viewers of the show, you might remember that I used to measure how good a tablet was by whether it could fit in my back pocket.
That's all it took.
The Nexus 7 was
the only one that
was the
actually
only one.
qualified.
It was in fact, I believe I got up on camera and
Yes,
put
you
it in
did.
my back pocket. You can't do that with the Pixel 10. But yeah, no, I'm very curious to you. And that's the thing is that tablets tend to be media device. Seems to be the most common usage of tablet. Back in the day, I used to take my tablet to the gym to watch TV while I was on the elliptical or running or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I honestly last night I was on the plane to California and I brought my tablet to watch the latest episode of Succession.
Yep. Meanwhile, planes now have tablets embedded in the
bigger screen than the tablet.
free
exactly.
video, movies to watch and everything.
But we're curious to see if the Pixel tablet can change the game or not. So.
Very curious about that, and kind of curious. Hopefully, sometime soon. Hopefully, while I have the Pixel tablet, I will also have the OnePlus
and do a nice side by side comparison.
Side by side comparison.
Cool.
I know I'm getting the OnePlus pad sometime in the next week.
Yeah.
So there's that. Will I get a Pixel tablet in the next week? I don't know.
Look
Stay
under
tuned
your
to find
chair
out.
tomorrow. See what's there.
Gum.
I don't know.
Popcorn.
JJ also, was it JJ who said this?
I don't know.
Someone, hey, JJ, first of all, someone in chat said that the 2015 I.O. was the last hardware giveaway year. Is that true?
Wait, what did we get?
I think they've given away Pixel A phones.
Yeah, I feel like there has been some
years.
hardware since then, but those were the days of hardware extravaganza giveaways. It was like you went and you knew you were getting a gift basket full of things. And that has really tapered off.
So yeah, I think maybe that was the last year they gave everyone something. But I know in subsequent years they gave all the press who went there a Pixel A phone.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember Shoreline. Yeah,
Really?
2012 was the skydiving year.
Yeah. Well, you're press, right?
Now I am. I sort of guess.
There you go. There you go.
I picked wrong in my career, y'all. If I'd gone the press route, I would have gotten more devices at I/O.
I
was just gonna say, I think as terms of pay scale goes, you chose wisely.
Okay.
Fair.
The right path.
Fair enough.
Oh, good thing Flo's not here. Oh. All right.
Love you, Flo. All right, Win, you have the honors.
Yes, and it is now time for the email of the week in studio. And this email of the week, I can't hear Comes from Tommy from Georgia. Hey team, hope Google I/O went, is going, or will go well for y'all.
Nice way to cover it.
Well done, Tommy. Well done.
Thanks, Tommy. In episode 638, there was a question about screencasting from phone to tablet for use in a car. I wonder why using the phone as a mobile hotspot was not given as a possible solution/option. The phone handles the data connection while the tablet runs the apps natively. I don't know how many apps that work on a phone. But won't work on a tablet. Oh,
I don't know many apps that work on
sorry.
a phone.
My brain just.
It's okay.
I don't know many apps that work on a phone, but won't on a tablet. Sorry about that, Tommy. What? Okay. Also, did we know that Win is jacked? Tickets anyone? She should have a segment to get us techies into shape. Anyway, looking forward to some heavy Google I/O news. Laters. Thank you, Tommy from Georgia.
Win is indeed jacked, as you say. And I'm kind of like, I didn't think about that. That's probably the better solution, right?
Sure.
Like if you're still going to have to hook up two devices to kind of sync with each other, use the phone for the data. Just do the simple open up your hotspot to your tablet, have it already kind of synced so that when the hotspot fires on, it connects, and then launch the app on your tablet. And there's no beaming or casting or anything.
Yeah.
Well, or you could go the hardcore route.
Yes.
I have a Galaxy Tab S5 that I installed Android Automotive onto. And then I also got the Android Auto receiver app. So now in my car, I use Android Auto for my phone on my tablet. So wirelessly too. So it's I don't have a car with a Android Automotive head unit built in, but I have a tablet that runs Android Automotive, and I use that.
I'm starting to get images of those photos of car drivers in Korea with all the tablets and
the 15 screens on their dash.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a couple more options for the emailer. Who was it? I think it was last week, right?
Yeah, it was
last week. Got to get the name in there.
Steve. Mirroring. Yeah, Steve.
Yes. So there you go, Steve.
Yep.
Some tips from Tommy and Michelle.
All right.
Don't do what I did. It's not worth it.
Oh,
it's too complicated.
I mean, I was sold. I was like, well, I guess if you go take the time to set it all up, it might be worth it. But
it was fun to learn, but it's definitely not worth it over just buying like one of those suction cup Android Auto things you can buy off Amazon.
That's funny.
Okay, Tommy, I did wear, for you video viewers can see, I'm actually wearing a kettlebell t-shirt because I did see Tommy's email and I said, I appreciate that very much. So yes, I have my Android sweatshirt and my kettlebell shirt. So these are the two halves of my lives, like working out and Android.
Earlier when Win got here, Ant and Win were like sizing each other up. They were like, all right, come on.
No, and
I felt very
and super fit and super fit. So, but yeah, and is like we're like workout co-cheerleaders or co-cheerleaders on Instagram. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. Meanwhile, I'll have another bowl of pasta, please. Thank you.
Pasta's an important part. You got to fuel up.
Totally.
Carb load. You got a carb load before I sit on the couch.
You're a runner, though. I can't run.
I don't run well. Just because I run doesn't mean
I can't run at all.
You move your legs and you go places.
I do, yes, I've run multiple half marathons, so like I've done that.
That's
I would die. So you know.
No, I've never done that. Yeah. You've got that on us, Ron.
Totally.
I'm just reading through all the title recommendations in chat, and some of them are pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
I think I'm actually not logged into chat. Dang it. I couldn't get logged in today. So I'm going to have chat like relist them for us after the show is done. I promise you we'll come up with a good title. You already know the title because you're watching and listening to the show and you saw it in your podcast feed.
Yeah,
see, so you're one step ahead of me. Close out the email.
Yeah. So Tommy, for wishing us a good past, present, and future I/O, for giving us a solution to last week's tablet via phone casting solution, and for also just being very kind and calling out my jackedness. That does not sound right. That is why Tommy, on this very, very extra special Google I/O week with all of us in studio, that is why you are the email of the week.
Excellent. And with that, ladies, gentlemen, and germs, we are done.
Google I/O has been previewed.
Yeah. Google I.O. has been briefly previewed, and many other news items that may or may not have something to do with Google I.O. have also been talked about. Emails have been answered, and confetti has been spread around.
What a fun time we've had.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to Flo. Wish that Flo could be here so we could wish her a happy birthday in person, but we will all see her tomorrow.
Yep.
And
the birthday celebration doesn't stop after one day. That's what we've learned. Yeah.
No.
So it's
Birthday
gonna go.
week.
when your birthday is on the same week as Google I.O.
I'm really looking forward to them to wishing us both a happy birthday from the keynote. Like Sundar's going to get up
First
there and go,
things
before we get
first.
started, we had a couple
Personal
birthdays in
friend
the
Ron.
audience. Yeah. You think we don't watch? You know?
Who here has heard of All About Android? I'm not overstating it, by the way. The audience would go crazy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it'll be great.
Right?
Totally.
Right. Okay, anyways. All right. So we are very excited for Google I.O. We have more to come. Obviously, next week we will be doing a kind of a post-show wrap-up. Actually, as we have done as a tradition for a very, very long time, Michael Wolfson will be joining us to do the post-I.O. Often he's been on pre-I.O., but that's because he would be going to I.O. He says this is the first I.O. he's missing in many years, and he said he's okay with it. He's accepted it. So he's going to join us for the post-show wrap-up. And then again, reminder that we're going to be interviewing Dave Burke and Samir Samat from the Android team at Google I.O. tomorrow, but you will not get that in this All About Android feed. You will get it in our Twit news feed. So go to twit.tv/news. That is our kind of like our breaking news channel, news interviews, that sort of stuff. Subscribe there, or just go there, I guess, tomorrow evening or Thursday morning, and you'll see our interview with them. And we've got more to come. We've got more Googlers that are going to join in a couple of weeks for more kind of context around a lot of the news that you're going to hear about tomorrow. So, Michelle, thank you for being here. What do you want to leave people with? Where should people go to follow all the crazy news that you're breaking? I feel like every single day you break a bunch of things. So
Dishes.
Yeah, so if you're gonna follow Google I/O news, I'll be all over it on Twitter at Michelle Rahman. If you're listening to this before I/O, obviously, or if you're listening to this after I/O, you can still stop by my Twitter feed where I'll be covering everything I can live from the show, just like Ron, Jason, and Win.
Yeah. Doing our best. Thank you, Michelle. What about you, Win?
Yeah, I usually am an Android dev. You can find most of my technical content usually on randomlytyping.com. You can find me on the interwebs at Queen Code Monkey if you're interested in like the fitness stuff mentioned. I post a lot of stuff on Instagram.com/Queen Code Monkey. Where I get coached by my dude AJ, Doc's Fitness in New Jersey. Hello. Okay. And just find me there. And so happy to be in studio.
I know. It's awesome.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's a whole different dynamic when we're in studio. It's a lot of fun. It's also weird to see, like, because I know it's weird because like you're there. And
I have to remember to look
exactly.
at you, like,
Exactly.
You're here, so I should look at you.
I know, right?
So you could follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm still at RonXO. I'm not breaking anything, unlike Michelle. Everything is still in one piece on my Twitter. But no, I'm actually been super busy and chasing toddlers, so I don't post as much. But I will be posting from Google I/O. So go check out, see what I thought of it tomorrow. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Ron. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Victor behind the board here in a couple of days anyways.
The man.
Thank you.
And not a happy birthday to Bert because I don't know when his birthday is, but it's definitely not
Even
this
if
week.
it was his birthday, he wouldn't get a happy birthday from me.
You're absolutely right. But thank you, Burke, nonetheless. Thanks to everyone. We had this room filled with folks here from Twit, helping set up cameras. And
left.
Anthony, Ty. I mean, who else am I met? Lisa was in here for a while.
It was quite the spectacle.
Anyway, it was quite the spectacle. And I'm sure there will be photos posted to our website as a result of it. So thanks for everybody for making us feel super special. J.R. Ray Feel, androidintel.net/twit. Definitely check that out. I guess, like, I'm thinking about, like, how am I going to, like, I don't tweet much anymore. I don't really, but maybe I will tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah, or maybe
live blog in the Discord. There you go. And you can get in the Discord by Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I like where you're headed here, Ron.
I'm the king of the segues.
Okay, twit.tv/clubtwit. When you go there, yes, you get access to all of our shows with no ads. Yes, you get access to bonus content that we don't release to people outside of the club. Things like pre and post show banter, hands on Windows, hands on Mac, Home Theater Geeks, another or Untitled Linux show. Lots of things. But what you really want is the members only Discord, because if you do that, then tomorrow while we're at Google I/O, I'm going to be in the All About Android channel, and I'm going to be live Discording. What is that called?
Live Discord, live posting, live blogging, live
blogging and Discord. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yep.
So anyways, that's what I'll be doing from there. And twit.tv/clubtwit. Join, $7 a month. We would love to have you. It helps keep the lights on after all. Thank you so much for watching and listening and putting up with us and our crazy antics as we are all in studio for possibly one time ever, all four of us in the studio together. Twit.tv/AAA is where you can go to subscribe to this show, everything you need to know. And I guarantee you that header image is going to be changed out after today. So, check back and see what it turns into. But subscribe, and you'll get all of our episodes. And we thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody! Google I/O!
Woo! Hooray.
Okay.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here. In case you hadn't heard, Home Theater Geeks is back. Each week, I bring you the latest audio-video news, tips and tricks to get the most out of your AV system, product reviews, and more. You can enjoy Home Theater Geeks only if you're a member of Club Twit, which costs $7 a month, or you can subscribe to Home Theater Geeks by itself for only $2.99 a month. I hope you'll join me for a weekly dose of Home Theater Geekitude.